This is GadgetStop321, and today I'm going to do a first impressions video of my Apple Certified Refurbished iPad mini. I've been using the iPad mini for about 3 days now, and as I give you my first impressions of using this device, I'm going to compare it to my old iPad 2 that I sold in order to get this, and I'll compare it to my daughter's Nexus 7. The first thing I'm going to compare is price. I went with the refurbished model for the iPad mini. It only cost $389 in Apple's online store, and to my knowledge, the refurbished models are only available in the online store. If I were to go into a retail store and get this same model, 16 gigabyte with 3G iPad mini, it would cost $460. So that's a great deal, $70 savings. And you get a 1-year warranty, and it comes in a nice box. It looks like a brand new device. You can't tell the difference between it and a brand new. Now if I compare this to an iPad 2, now my iPad 2 was Wi-Fi only, but if you wanted a model with 3G and you bought it brand new, it's gonna run $530 for a brand new iPad 2 with 3G. If you want to go with a refurbished model, let's see, you can get one for $349, or basically $350. Now you see today only the black model is available, but if you check in every so often, there's different models available. The second generation Nexus 7, the 3G model, it isn't available in the Google Play Store yet, but when it is in a few months, it's going to be $350. So $350 for the Nexus 7, $389, or basically $390 for the refurbished iPad mini, $460 for a new iPad mini, $350 for a refurbished iPad 2, and what was it, $530 for a brand new iPad 2. So as far as cost goes, I'm going to give it to the Nexus 7 because all of the iPad models that I just mentioned were all 16 gig. The 3G for the Nexus 7 is only going to come in the 32 gig model. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the screen resolution. The iPad mini and the iPad 2 have the same resolution, but since the iPad 2 is shrunken down, those pixels are more tightly packed, so you get, in theory, a better picture. I don't have the best eyes. I wear glasses. Let me pull this web page back up. Okay, and I'll zoom in. And I can see some pixelation there. If that kind of thing bothers you, the iPad mini might not be your best choice. It doesn't bother me though, because I have bad eyes to begin with. Let's see. And I don't know if you'll be able to see with my camera, but you don't have as much pixelation on the Nexus 7. And this is the first generation Nexus 7. The second gen Nexus 7 that just came out a couple of days ago is going to be incredibly sharper than even this one. So that's going to be awesome. So again, I have to give it to the Nexus 7. The iPad mini, I would say, comes in second place, and the iPad 2 comes in third place for screen resolution. The next thing I'm going to compare is weight, and the iPad mini is significantly lighter than the iPad 2. The Nexus 7, you can't really tell a difference between the Nexus 7 and the iPad mini. So I would give that a tie. Now, you may be able to look up the specs and see one of them is lighter than the other one, but to the human touch, you can't really tell the difference. Both of these are more portable and better than an iPad 2. Next, I'm going to give it the purse test. Now, my iPad 2 was definitely not purse friendly. For the purse test, I went ahead and put my case on it because that aluminum back is somewhat scratch prone. It's not horrible. I've seen some scratch tests, and in fact, I'm going to link a scratch test and a couple of drop tests. I'll put those links in my description. But for carrying around in my purse, and that's the only reason I got rid of my iPad 2, is so that I could get something that I could throw in a purse and that had 3G, that I could use it anywhere. And there you go. Pop it in the purse, you're ready to go. And on my iPad 2, I always had a smart cover on it. I was so worried about the screen. You'll see in the scratch test that I link, the screen's not really what you have to worry about. These screens are tough. It's the back that's more easily scratched. So at some point I'll probably put a screen protector on it, but I don't even have a screen protector on it right now. On the other hand, the back of the Nexus 7, I never felt like I had to put a case on it because it feels like a case. It's that soft rubbery stuff. But the screen on these things, as you'll see in the drop tests, are much more fragile than the iPads. If this weren't Wi-Fi, if it had 3G and I was going to be throwing it in my purse, I would put a screen protector on it. Something could get shifted around in my purse and scratch or crack the screen. I would be more concerned about that. So the point of weakness for the iPad 2 is the back that gets more easily scratched, and the point of weakness for the Nexus 7 is the screen. And the iPad 2 just isn't portable as either one of those. The next thing I'm going to compare is apps. Now, the iPad 2 and the iPad mini run the same apps. The iPad mini runs the apps that the iPad 2 does, and they look exactly the same. Whatever experience you have on the iPad 2, you're going to have the same experience on an iPad mini, just shrunken down. So you're not going to be surprised by the app behaving any differently or not working the way you want it to. I went with the iPad mini because it had the apps that I need for my job. I wanted to be able to find app replacements or the apps that I needed in the Google Play Store, but I wasn't able to always do that, and there were some apps that I just couldn't compromise on. But I would just advise you, before you buy either one, check out the app stores and see which one has the apps that you feel like you're going to need. The next thing I'm going to discuss is performance. And the iPad mini uses the same chip as the iPad 2, so performance is going to be similar. Your zippiness and how fast you load up apps is going to be fine. The Nexus 7, similar experience. I would say it's a tie between all three of these devices. The next thing I'm going to talk about is cameras. I don't know the exact specs. You can look them up. They're out there all over the place. But I know that the iPad mini has the same camera that the iPhone 5 has. So those cameras are just a little bit better than the iPad 2. The new Nexus 7 does have a front and rear facing camera. So if you're considering going with the new Nexus 7, that's a compromise you won't have to make. The iPad mini is wider. It's going to be a little bit harder to palm, but I've got really small hands and I am able to palm it. The Nexus 7 is not as wide, so it's easier to palm if you're going to be using it for long periods of time, reading. If I'm browsing the internet, I use them in landscape mode, so that's not an issue for me. Also, one of the reasons I went with the iPad mini was I do use it a lot in landscape mode for work, word processing, and different applications. I use Cloud On a lot. I really recommend that if you do a lot of stuff with Microsoft Word and Excel. That's a great application, and it only works in landscape mode, and you've got your keyboard, and you can actually use Cloud on either platform, Android or iOS. But once your keyboard pops up on a Nexus 7, you don't have as much room up here to edit your documents. So to me, the wider screen was an advantage for that reason. The iPad mini is actually slimmer than the Nexus 7. The actual iPad mini only comes up to about where the silver bezel starts. But once you put a case on it, they're both about the same, so I give it a tie on that. In conclusion, I'm really happy so far with the iPad mini. If you use an iPhone, these two really work good together. I've got my reminders that if I'm using my iPad, I can put down stuff on my grocery list or my to-do list, and it'll be there on my phone if I don't have my iPad handy. I've got my notes that sync back and forth. Google Chrome is my primary browser. That way, any of my bookmarks, they're on my phone, on my iPad, on my tablet. But I do have some things that I use Safari for, so that is synced between my iPhone and my tablet, so that's handy. I use Pages. Let me see, my little productivity folder. I've got access to my Dropbox and my Google Drive and my SkyDrive. Smart Notebook was one of the apps that I just couldn't compromise on. This app, Notarize, I don't think it's called Notarize anymore, but if you do a search for Notarize, a little PDF editor comes up. That's a great app. They didn't have anything comparable to that in the Google Play Store, so that was one thing that really drew me to the iPad mini. Pages, I use that, and that syncs between my phone and the iPad. So overall, first impressions are, I love it. I love the portability. I can't believe that Apple didn't make a smaller iPad sooner, because it's awesome. Before you get one, if you think that the Retina display might be an issue for you, go to a store and look at a Retina display iPad and look at an iPad mini and see for yourself if it's going to be an issue. For me, it's not. So if you found this video helpful, make sure you click the like button, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe.